Wasabi guys, welcome back to another 10 cheap commander pickups video. This series where I go over some cards that are pretty cheap right now. All of these are under $3, most are definitely under $1. But before I get into it, first I would like to remind you, if you have not already, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out here, it means a lot to me. Thank you so much, you guys, the community, for helping me get here. Let's start it off here with the first card. This is actually from one of the newer Kamigawa Neon Dynasty PreCon decks, and you'll notice this is going to be the theme of the video. Cards that are only really found in Commander PreCon decks. I know nowadays you can find them in the packs, but because they're still primarily found in the pre-constructed deck, it does give them some exclusivity. They're not as commonly pulled in bulk, and nobody buys a $30, $40 pre-con deck to throw the rest away for only like one card. Iron Soul Enforcer, I think, is a great addition to pretty much any artifact deck, and at only 82 cents right out of the gate, I can tell you this is going to be a staple for the future. Whenever it or a commander we control attacks alone, return target artifact card from our graveyard to the battlefield. This is pretty important to point out because while you are attacking alone with a creature, you're able to get this ability off a lot quicker than what I think people are used to. And the two cards I'm going to compare this to, we have Bishop of Rebirth, which is a more direct comparison. Sun Titan has an awesome ETB trigger, but if we're just focusing on the attack trigger alone, the fact that you can have your commander attack the turn it comes into play, it makes it above average in my opinion. Bishop of Rebirth was popular for cleric decks, vampire decks. It's really there because it has that tribal synergy, and while yeah, you could get a creature back that's mana cost 3 or less, that is just way too slow. The creature that you need to attack with is lucky to survive combat. With Iron Soul Enforcer, you can play more of a Voltron deck. Let's say you're playing an equipment strategy, you immediately attack with your commander, get back your equipments. The next card we have here is from Crimson Vow. We have Breathkeeper Seraph. These are the Soulbond creatures. I don't believe they came in the Precon deck, but that being said, they are going to be a little bit harder to find than your standard booster pack pulled cards. And I think just looking at the keyword of Soulbond, and I think anyone who's ever played a white deck in Commander, you know how powerful it can be to have a loop that kind of preserves your board presence. And that's all this really needs to be. For 50 cents, this is an absolute steal. As long as it's paired with another creature each of those creatures has, when this creature dies, you may return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of your next upkeep. You might have to wait a while for that. That might be the only downside, that you do have to wait for your upkeep. That being said, you put this on the creature you want to protect the most, and pair it up with any kind of good ETB, any strong ETB, like a Karmic Guide or a Sun Titan, and you're bringing back several creatures from your graveyard. I think this is incredible. Any type of black and white aristocrat strategy would love to have this card, and I think you're going to notice anything involving a commander set symbol is going to have some premium. May not be anytime soon, may not be anytime this year, but you know there aren't too many of these Soulbond creatures out there. The one creature that comes to mind when we think about powerful Soulbond creatures, we're talking about Deadeye Navigator. This is like if you replace that ability with Gift of Immortality, you have something that could be equally annoying, however you don't have the obnoxious combos. Still a very powerful recovery ability for a $50. I think you're going to find in white, especially in mono white and Commander, that's going to be pretty tough to beat. The next one we have is Drown in Dreams from the Midnight Hunt Commander set. This one I think is also a steal, one of the most powerful cards in this video. $1.95, it is going to be one of the more expensive. I still think for $2, you're going to see this and you're going to know exactly why. If you wait long enough, this could easily be a $10 card. Let's just go through everything here. First of all, the mana cost is super flexible. It's not like Blue Sun Zenith where you had to pay 3 blue mana. You could throw this into more than a mono blue deck. It has that benefit there. It's also instant speed, which is great. We're going to talk about a card here that inspired pretty much every other card like this. You choose one. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. So it's a mode card, but if you have your commander out there, you get to choose both of these. The first mode is target player draws X cards. That's standard. If it were just that, no one would be surprised. But you get the second mode, target player mills twice X cards. So if you have your commander, you get to do both. That is incredible. Of course, over the years, we started out with Brain Geyser. It's sorcery speed, I guess it's okay, it's solid. And then we got Stroke of Genius around Urza Saga, which gave you the benefit of timing. Whenever you have instant speed versus sorcery speed, even if you have to pay an additional mana, like with Stroke of Genius, that sometimes matters more than putting as much into X as you can. And Pull from Tomorrow was kind of a compromise between those two cards, giving you that flexibility, that extra extra 1 you could put into X if you really wanted to at instant speed. In Drowning Dreams, we have for $1.95 what I would consider to be a strictly better version of Stroke of Genius. It's debatable on how you view that extra mana you could spend, but I would go as far as to say it's probably a better version than the other two as well. The inclusion of mill isn't uncommon in blue spells that let you draw, but with this one getting to not only mill but to mill effectively, this won't be a trivial amount of mill that you're just going to include along with all of your other mill abilities. Twice X could be a game-winning play. The next one we have here is Tidal Barracuda. This is another one that's over $1. This 4-mana fish from the Commander 2020 Precon says any player may cast spells as though they had flash, but your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So it's essentially like if you took Leyline of Anticipation, you made it for everybody, but then you added in a condition where you kind of have Grand Abolisher, so they can't cast spells during your turn. I think this is a great card for group hug, any card that can make the game fun for everyone while also giving you somewhat of a one-sided advantage is perfect for that strategy. It's not going to be super competitive, I know that, most of us know that, but I think just the rarity of cards that let you flash into play pretty much anything is what's going to set this apart from so many other cards. And because it's exclusive to that Commander 2020 Precon, it has potential to go up, I think even more so than the more recent Commander products, because back in Ikoria you weren't able to pull a rare like this in the main set booster packs. So for what it is right now, I'm not saying any of these cards are going to go to the moon, like you're going to get a $20 card overnight. No, I think this is more realistically going to be under $10, but the entry for what you're looking to invest in when you're looking for cards to collect, you want the lowest number possible, and that's why I recommend cards like these. Worst case scenario, this gets a reprint and what, it might go under $1? You're not really losing much, but there's a lot of potential here. The next card we have here was one that I was really surprised didn't take off, because we have similarities between this and Turgid, so I just assumed everyone's going to want more of the same. And while Lorcan doesn't reinvent the wheel, it doesn't do anything brand new in black, stealing creatures from the graveyard, that's pretty standard. However, this is a very powerful ability on a 7-mana creature. I think for 24 cents, this is an absolute steal. This might be the #1 steal in this entire video. Not only does Lorcan Warlock Collector make a potentially strong commander option, maybe not as explosive or as abusable as Turgid, anytime you can steal creatures and then keep them in exile even if they would die, you have something pretty strong. So let me read it off here. Whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you may pay life equal to its mana value. That's the one downside here. So you just play it like you would Kyrix, Son of Yawgmoth, and incorporate a lot of life gain to offset that. And if you do, you put it onto the battlefield under your control. It's a Warlock in addition to its other types. If a Warlock you control would die, you exile it instead. That right there, I think that's what makes Lorcan a little bit different, is that it's not just about stealing, but it's also graveyard hate. They're not getting those creatures back unless they deal with Lorcan first. And of course, the immediate comparisons here, we have Giza Glorious Resurrector, we have Turgid God of Fright, cheaper commander options I know, which makes them a little bit better, but I'm not necessarily viewing Lorcan as a commander option exclusively. I think as one of the 99, Lorcan has a lot of potential as well. Next card we have here is Battle Mage's Bracers. Only 95 cents for this equipment. Equipped creature has haste, and whenever an ability of equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, you may pay 1 mana. If you do, you copy that ability, and you get to choose new targets for the copy. Commander 2021 was a mixed package, but we had some pretty decent cards if you're focusing on artifacts at the very least. In the comparisons, we of course have the haste-giving Swiftfoot Boots, and the ability-copying Trigger of Illusionist's Bracers. This is a red card, so you are rather limited in what you can throw this into, but I still think the combination of those two things, at least in theory, is incredibly strong. Marcel the Pretender is the first commander option that comes to mind whenever I think about activated abilities and requiring haste, needing haste to function. And while I don't think Battle Mage's Bracers would take that commander to the next level again, make that commander more relevant, I like how it's at least opening up those possibilities of making a deck like that function more efficiently. So for under $1, you have a pretty unique equipment here, enables any type of good creature ability, while also making it easier to activate them. Next card we have here is Surly Badgerstar. Another one from Commander 2020. This 32-cent Badger Dinosaur is pure value. We're used to seeing these payoffs in black. With cards like Waste Not, we have Bone Miser probably being the best comparison. But for only 32 cents, this is an absolute steal. Whenever you discard a creature card, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever you discard a land card, you create a treasure token. And whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land card, Surly Badgerstar fights up to one target creature you don't control. So not only does it offer you something similar to the black payoffs, but you also get something a little bit different there in being able to fight. You get mana production if you discard your lands. Let's say you're playing something like Nekasar where you're wheeling and dealing, you're discarding a lot of cards yourself. This is exactly what you want, and you're going to want to play this in those types of decks. It's always going to be relevant in any type of red strategy that involves discarding cards. If you're thinking about playing red and black, one of the most popular commander options is Chainer. There's also Anji Falconwrath, a lot of discarding in commander. Next one we have is Ryonya, Fire Dancer. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you create X tokens that are copies of another target creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of instant and sorcery spells you've cast this turn. They gain haste, and then you exile them at the beginning of the next end step. Legendary creature, yes, but for only 46 cents, I think this is a great supplementary card for any type of deck where your whole goal is to benefit off of creature token copies. I'm talking about Brutaclad, I'm talking about any strategy that would fool around with a legend roll. So Mirror Box is a new card that I think works out pretty well. If there's something holding it back, it's that you do have to involve instants and sorceries in order to make this ability more powerful. It's not 100% required, it's just what you probably want to do to get the most out of her. And then we have Pest Infestation. From Commander 2021, this $2.87 sorcery might be the most fairly costed out of all the cards here, but I still think there's a lot of potential. You destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments, and then you create twice X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. It's twice X in the cost, but that's fine because you are rewarded by getting twice X black and green pest creature tokens. I would say this is a more flexible version of cards like Aura Mutation and Artifact Mutation. If you were to combine what these two do, and not only that, but give you more options, more things to destroy than just a single target, you would have one of the best removal spells in green. There's the payoff in getting token support. A lot of decks just want that. It's extra desirable for people who are looking for artifact and enchantment removal. And the last card to talk about is Hurl Through Hell, a 65-cent black and red instant from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms PreCon. You exile target creature until the end of your next turn, you may cast that card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. This is something that's gaining more popularity in recent years, especially if we're looking at black. Black likes to kill creatures and then take control of them. But I think this is more like a card desertion. While you're not exiling a creature, you're not removing one, it's the same idea. You're dealing with something, you're providing an answer. And not only are you stopping that problem, but you're also offering yourself the ability to gain control of whatever you dealt with. While it doesn't offer you the most flexibility in what you're able to exile, at instant speed for 4 mana, this is standard for black exiling creature removal. That cost is not unreasonable at all. And on top of that, you could be exiling and then casting for yourself the best creature on the board. You don't even have to be in the right mana. Removal, anything that could potentially be a staple in the average commander deck that probably has the best chance of going up in price. Anything like Graveyard Reanimation, card draw, something that is fundamental to making a deck a good deck, is bound to gain interest in the future. So anyway, those were 10 commander pickups. Let me know what you think about them in the comment section below. Let me know cards that you think are pretty underrated and could potentially see an increase in price in the future. Commander Void here signing off. I will see you all next time.